Today, we are on the 9th talk of our series, and we are focusing on the topic, transforming accessibility. And we are going to get into conversation with Avaz on the latest technological advances in assistive technology. And today, we are very, very honored to have Ms. Lalitha Nagarajan and Ms. Keerthana from the Avaz team join us here today. Ms. Lalitha presently heads the customer success team for Avaz, and she has been working with the company for the past 10 years, almost since its inception. She has worked closely with several parents, speech therapists, and special educators in the area of communication for children with speech difficulties. She serves as the primary interface between customer and the product, ensuring that the voice of the customer reaches the product. By education, she is an engineer from Bangalore University, after which she has been working in the software industry. Then we also have Ms. Keerthana, and she is the product manager here at Avaz. She is a designer at core and has spent several years of her work experience as an architect and is currently contributing her creative energy in the assistive technology space as a product manager. Ms. Keerthana is also a mother of a beautiful 5-year-old neurodivergent on the autism spectrum. And that in itself gives her constant insights and rush and the push to constantly solve the problems that keep coming up with technology and to enable our environment in order to truly create an inclusive community. Thank you so much to the both of you for taking time and joining with us here today.
Thank you for organizing this so that more and more of us can know the right things about technology and how it can empower us. So thank you for the initiative too.
And thanks for giving us the opportunity to spread more awareness to parents and professionals.
Further ado, let's get right into the questions. This is the first question I want to ask both of you. So if you look at the AAC world, there are so many softwares or let's say AAC apps and devices. Are there any specific criteria to qualify it as a good or a, let's say, an AAC system as such?
Yeah. So when you talk of AAC, there is, of course, you have aided and unaided AAC, which you must be aware of. And of course, low tech within the aided, there is low tech and high tech. Unaided is like gestures where you don't use your body part, you don't use additional aids. And within aided, you have high tech and low tech. In low tech, of course, it is paper based and doesn't need technology. But in high tech, there are certain criteria that make it mandatory to have what is called a robust AAC system. So if you're looking at what is a robust AAC system, it should have the kind of features that would enable the user to make conversations and communication of all types. So which includes what are the reasons for which we communicate. So it would include things like whether it's greetings or requesting or expressing emotions, expressing feelings, asking questions, answering questions, commenting, describing, telling a joke, telling a story. So it should enable them to do all of this and autonomously. So without the need of somebody else. And as we know that the goal of AAC is to be able to say whatever you want to say to whomever you want to say, whenever you want to say, and however you want to say it. So in all of this, some of the important features are that, of course, it should allow the user to be able to use pictures because everyone may not be literate. So pictures, and for those who are literate, it makes them far more autonomous to be able to use the keyboard, because in picture mode, you still are dependent on the words being present as pictures. So if the words are not present, you will not be able to say exactly what you want to say, right? So it is very important to have the keyboard. So the alphabet or the text is important to have access to. And besides that, you need within the pictures, you should be able to customize the pictures because they might want to say exactly what they want to say, which is something very specific to their personal life. So it has to have a customization possibility, and it should be able to create new words, add new pictures. So that is the key part of it. Within the keyboard, there is also the importance of being able to say, like, let's say different forms of the word, even within the keyboard or even within the pictures. Different forms, whether it's past tense, present, or future, because the child might want to say that I want to have pani puri tomorrow. But if the word or I had pani puri yesterday, or I wanted it yesterday, wants to say past or future, and then it should not be mistaken for being present. So and it's happened in the past that parents have shared stories where they've said that when they communicate, they're not able to say the full form of this. So the morphological variation, whether it's past, present, future, is not. If they're not able to express it, then the parent would think immediately it's required, and they bring it, and then the child says no, but then they wanted it tomorrow. So it's important that they're able to say it, the tomorrow part of it, or that it's a future. So being able to say and differentiate between past, present, and future is an important part. So word forms is important. Core is very important. So being able to express in core words, because core words are what makes what we speak 80% of the time. So although the English language has more than tens of thousands of words, but there is a core set of 300 words or so, which are called core because they are the most frequently, 80% of the words that we speak in day-to-day life is actually core words. So these are the short words or the sight words that, are not easily represented by pictures. It's like, I am eating an ice cream. So I am eating an ice cream. So like the act of, so it includes prepositions, it includes almost all forms of speech except for the nouns.
Nouns.
I mean, very few nouns are there in the top 300 core words or so, but they're mostly prepositions and articles and to, from, all of that. So it's important that the vocabulary has core words as well as fringe words. Fringe words are the personalized words that you're able to add and customize to the app. It's also important to have pre-stored sentences. So pre-stored sentences are what makes it possible to say the words quickly. So one of the goals of AAC is also to be able to communicate as quickly as you can, right? So some of the frequently used phrases like say good morning, good night, how are you, how was your day, have a good day, things like that is easy to put it into a phrase. So the ability to create phrases and have them as pre-stored sentences or phrases is important to be a part of a robust vocabulary, because that makes it really easy to access, because it's a frequently used sentence or a phrase. So you don't have to create the whole sentence. So it's available at the tap of a button. So in Avas, we have something called a quick folder, which has access to pre-stored sentences, where you can easily access these words. And of course, you can create your own pre-stored sentences and have them as well. So so in other words, these are some of the key features that I would think are part of what is called a robust AAC app.
What we also have to understand is that when we talk about AAC, the intent of AAC is communication and language development, and it is not what we are trying to achieve only through PECs. So it's not a choice board that we are trying to present. So when you're choosing an AAC, or even if you're assessing an AAC, you have to look into these aspects, that how much of language development can my child derive from this particular AAC? Is he able to express himself beyond just pointing out and choosing between two things? Is there autonomy involved? Because these are things that we want the child to develop really early in, and that is when their interest over language and communication also improves. Now that we're talking about autism awareness, specifically if you see autistic kids do struggle with the whole idea of communication, and it's not only speech that we're talking about. They do have the core challenge of being able to identify what their need is and then associate it with a language that's appropriate to express that need. The intent of communication itself is lacking. So AAC, when Lalitha was talking about so many things in robust AAC, it also, the main idea is that the child has control over all this language, and a very robust language is presented to him, and not limit that to what we think the child is supposed to be communicating. And that's where the AAC should be able to support all these features and have so many varieties of options available for them to take language to the next level. And especially the point that Lalitha was saying about customizing, because the user's environment becomes very crucial for their communication abilities. So any AAC should be able to give that power and ease of being able to customize their AAC board, their words, whatever they are seeing in their environment, what sort of phrases they are using often, because it's not something that you can decide. And culturally also we are so different. So these are the things that you have to look into the AAC. Are these getting reflected? Will this be an easy thing for my child to relate to this image? If my child is not going to relate to a burger's image, does he have dosa on his AAC? Or at least does he have the ability to take a photo of a dosa and upload it so that he understands what it is? So these are the things that are, it's not about how great the AAC is, but these are almost basic prerequisites for you to call an AAC robust.
Yeah, and I would also like to add another point, which is the number of pictures available. It shouldn't be too limited that, the parent or the caregiver ends up adding a lot more. So it should be, broad enough for it to accommodate all the day-to-day words and pictures, images, basically. And also one of the important things to remember is also access to keyboard is also one of the goals of AAC is to lead towards literacy, because literacy is what can give you absolute autonomy, because you can say exactly what you want to say and you're not dependent on somebody else to have programmed it into your device. Yeah.
That's definitely. I feel like how Ms. Keerthana was also suggesting. I think that these are prerequisites. It doesn't even just come as, we have to think of. I think it already needs to be there and systems into place. Just to connect that in with what we wanted to ask you again is, I'm sure both of you would have, when you introduce it for the first time to a parent, you would have had resistance. You would have come up with a lot of practicality questions in which they genuinely ask. So what are some of those questions that parents do come and ask you? And that we've seen a lot of parents also go into AAC abandonment, because they're not able to use it and things like that. So how have you all faced those situations, or how have you all, answered to parents, or what suggestions do you give parents when you give them a device for the first time? How do you go about that?
So I think the start point for this question is we face this all the time. Like we get so many parents calling up Lalitha saying, I don't know what to do with this. So, but we completely understand where it is coming. First factor is that fear towards tech. Inherently we have this fear towards tech, that maybe I don't know what this app is supposed to do. I don't know how to change this setting, but everything is actually very easy if we overcome that fear and start exploring. The second is, if you see AAC as a mode of communication, it itself is a new way of communication. It's a new language for you also to pick. So even if it is a caregiver, it's not like it's just going to be immediately easy for you to take an AAC and start forming sentences. We all struggle with the AAC. We all struggle to just find the right word in which folder, where is it, and then have awareness of the situation, and then not take too long so that the child is already off somewhere else. And these are the struggles that we do find. So if a child is going to take XYZ amount of time to learn the AAC, we have to be respectful of the fact that the communication partner also is going to take XYZ amount of time to learn. And that is where I think when you talk about abandonment, it is that overwhelm that causes the parent to just leave it. But I feel we should take that as the first step and bring it upon ourselves that I can do it, and that gives the child also the confidence that they can also learn something new. And it's not like just because they cannot speak immediately, if you give them a device, they're going to start off immediately and everything is going to magically change in your environment. And Lalitha can throw more about modeling and how critical that is and what sort of questions parents have about it.
Yeah, absolutely. See, in fact, we start by saying that it's like learning a musical instrument. You can't just buy the instrument and hand it to the child and expect them to start playing it, right? So you got to teach it to them. So in the same way, you got to teach how they have to use the device. So it's literally like a set of structured techniques to be used, and one of which is called modeling. And where it's not really, I wouldn't say it's very intuitive for you to do it. It's more intuitive for you to just, immediately take your hand and take it to the child and say, okay, come on, touch it and start using it. So there are things that are counterintuitive, where you have to tell them that there are techniques like prompt hierarchy. So, and modeling. So you got to model it that many times. So the use of a particular word. So let's say, want, the child will not know immediately, is not able to associate the feeling of wanting something or the need to request something by using a device, right? So they would automatically point to an object, and you got to slowly convert that or try to help him understand that this want can also be used, and associate that picture with a particular action or a feeling or a word. So it could be any of them. So even to make that correlation between the picture and the spoken language is a very important part. So it's a very, very gradual process, and parents are often, of course, I mean, naturally would expect immediate results, and that takes a long time for it to come. So, and they also tend to compare it with other children, and they would, think that, oh, their child is not progressing enough, and that might lead to abandonment. And a lot of them are also myths. Like, one of the reasons for abandonment can also be that, and we have seen that in the past, that once their child starts speaking one or two words after using ours, then they would immediately stop the device and say, okay, now, like, speech is developing, so let's stop ours and give a chance for speech to develop. But by then they stop it, and then they come back a few years later saying that nothing has gone ahead much. I thought like speech was starting. And one of the things that happens when you introduce ours and high-tech AAC is, because of the audio feedback that you get, they do tend to, hasten speech development. So it is wrongly perceived as, speech is coming, and, you're trying to block it with technology. So let's stop the technology and allow speech to develop. But that's like going down the wrong path. And what happens as a result of that is, for a few years, then they give it a break by when the, behavior issues increase, and then they come back realizing that that was actually probably not the right way to go about it, and then they come back and adopt it. So we have seen that in the past with parents. So these are some of the kind of starting issues. And
also creative solutions. I think parents sometimes lack ideas of to how they can use the AAC and increase the adaptation. How can I make it fun for my child, or how can I make it more effective for my child, so that the child understands the power communication has. And these creative solutions also, it scares them off, but that's where the support comes into picture, where we are there to support, the SLPs are there to support, teletherapy is happening. So these sort of things actually help them overcome these barriers and become more confident about using that technology for the improvement of the child itself.
Absolutely. And also, one is, they are very, very short on time, and they are so overwhelmed already trying to juggle so many things for the child's therapy sessions and running between schools and therapies and everything else, and their daily routines, that they really don't have the time to even think about what to do. So even when we suggest to them, you can use these core words, and we felt, okay, they'll be able to use it. But then we realized that they don't have the time to think about it. So we also, I mean, we've done a lot of resources. We create resources to share it, to say, okay, to use the word want, you can use it in these contexts. So we give them context to use it in a pictorial way that's easy for them to absorb. We don't want them to be overwhelmed and stressed out more with a manual kind of thing. So we try to make it more engaging, to make it more pictorial, that's easy for them to remember and recall. And so we tell them, like, for the word, let's say get, these are the ways in your daily routines. So how do you just integrate ours into the daily routines is something that we are constantly trying to tell them. We give them a lot of posters on WhatsApp, on our Facebook, and all of that. We share a lot of resources just to ease their burden.
So there are a million ideas available out there. It is just that, are you ready to seek for it? And it is the start point that we want to make it easy for the parents. Once they do get a hang on it, they do start creating. We have seen so many parents, Lalitha keeps sharing these stories, where they've come up with their own, brilliant ways of playing games with their children on Avaz, and, so many other ways of engagement. It is when they cross that initial barrier and get comfortable with that technology, then their creativity sort of increases. And now we have started, extracting from there, and then, sharing these ideas with more and more, so that it is, it reaches a bigger audience and benefits more people.
Absolutely. Yeah. They teach us a lot. Yeah. A lot of parents are extremely creative and use it in so many fun ways that we couldn't have thought of was even an option to use AAC for. Yeah, absolutely.
Ma'am, could you give us a, like a short story, like anything that on the top of your head, something that a parent has done that you found, very interesting?
Yeah. So one of them was a parent of Aditi, and they had created a video and shared it on our group, where they had used it. So Aditi was very fond of music, and her mother had recorded a lot of short songs in a folder that had like maybe 25, 30, maybe 50 songs. And so the game was that the mother would sing the second stanza of the song, and the girl would have to identify which of the songs it was.
Okay.
So she would sing the second line, and the girl would quickly scroll through the whole thing, and then she'll find the right one and play it. And then the entire song will play up, and she was like so triumphantly looking into the camera to say, see, I got it right, and then so that would become a game, and every time they would continue with that. So that was one that was very cute. And the other one was a parent who had used it for snakes and ladder. They created their own custom snakes and ladder board, where every number, it had an instruction for the child to do. And one could be, and it could be customized to meet the child's goals. It could be social goals. It could be, literacy goals. It could be communication goals. So every time they would land on a particular number, it would say, okay, jump 3 times, or pick a green object from this room, or raise your hand, or touch your nose, or say hello to whoever is next to you. So it had like very cute custom made instructions in each of the squares. So I thought that was really creative and a very nice way to engage. It was also engaging. It was also teaching, turn taking for the child. So a lot of things integrated into a playway method. So games is a great way to keep it very creative as well.
So this is something even we have seen in our sessions, ma'am. So for example, when we try to do an activity and parents are also able to see, oh, he is doing it, I think I can do something similar at home, or I can try something else. This is an interesting activity. So once they get to that mindset, they will try more. That's something we have seen like in our sessions. Of course, it takes time to learn things. Though initially we have seen that the parents also ask a lot of questions, how to do it. All those technical parts are kind of difficult for most of the parents. But after they overcome that barriers, they are able to do more. That's something we have seen. So now I want to change the topic to something else, artificial intelligence. So since now artificial intelligence is something, it's very famous or the most spoken topic in the entire world. So how can we use artificial intelligence in AAC? Do you think is it effective for us? And are there any limitations? So maybe you can tell something about that.
Yeah, well, it's been a buzzword, and we've also been thinking about it, and we've put together even a small video, which I can even share with you to show how, in fact, we had shared it during the recent conference that we had gone to, ATIA in the US. So I can start with that to share it.
Once upon a time, AI was a fantasy, but now it is a reality. What would it mean for AAC? Walk with us as we envision a future of AAC with AI. AI as an AAC companion. Speed up your personalization with AI. Elevate self-expression with AI. Imagine an AI buddy. Assist with chat, modeling, and much more. Why spend time personalizing folders when AI can do it for you in an instant? How can AAC and AI-powered art take creativity to new heights? Add feelings to messages with AI-generated tones. Thank you for watching. Comment on your favorite theme below.
I especially like that part where you can according to the way how much you feel in the certain emotions, you can describe it. So most of the time people get trouble with that. How can I express certain emotions? Because there is level of that, the degree of emotion, right? So how can we do that? So I think that is a good activity or a good technology part where we can work on that. That is those are good tips. I think, it would be great if we can have it in the AAC systems. So are you working on that, ma'am, by any chance? I mean to say your technical team, are they working on that?
Yeah,
We are like working on quite a lot of AI related stuff, because now we have the technology available and we don't want to, stay behind. And also we are trying to see more effective ways of utilizing AI in a way that it doesn't scare people off, in the sense there's no privacy barriers and stuff like that. And it's still effective in the sense I don't want to harm the user by communicating wrong, but I just want to assist the user communicating faster. So a lot of these ideas that you just saw is also, to maximize the speed and cut down the effort, which is also contrary to the maximum myth that you find in India, is that if you hand over an AC, it is going to make the child lazy to use verbal speech. Where the entire world is now working on ideas, how can I make it faster for the child, how can I make it less tiresome for the child? And it sort of brings more to light that what you're thinking, that your child is not speaking out of laziness, is so far from reality. Because communication fatigue is indeed a thing when someone is struggling for so long to be able to just form a simple sentence. And the efficacy of like you just saw in the video, could you please do this for me, how it can sound so different in each tone. And there's so much limitations within that communication through that AAC, because it's still expressing half your emotion. And so much can be done if you can get an AI into the system and help fasten that process and make it much more personalized for the child. So just saying, could you do this for me, is so much more effective and empowering for the child, when you get that right, exploring all that, like I really need to go to the toilet, or I really want this chips right now. It is so much more interesting, and it connects to the child, it connects to the environment. And we definitely want to see more of that, embedded in our AAC systems.
Yeah, and that includes tones as well. I mean, if you're angry, you want to say that. If you're happy, you want to express that. So there's a variation in the tone that is there in many of the voices that are coming up now. And yeah, it's like, and also like it also reduces and makes your the caregiver's time more effective, because it can make things happen for you quicker. So it's like visit to the dentist, it's able to quickly create a folder along with other words, so that then they can focus on the therapy rather than creating and customizing the page. So it just makes their time more effective for the time that they have. So it can help you in an enormous number of ways by just reducing your time. And also, yeah, you can also have situations where you can use the GPS based features. So let's say you want some alerts to pop up when you go home. So when the child is home, you can have the home related vocabulary popping up, or when the child is in school, you can have the school related vocabulary highlighted. So things like that, you can have it GPS based. So just to make things easier, make things faster, make things more effective, all towards communication.
Also, prediction is one more thing that we are trying to crack, because prediction becomes very, very crucial when you talk about speed of communication. If you can try and understand or start predicting in a smart way what the child might be intending to do. What sort of words are relevant in a particular situation? So is there a way that if I am in a therapy center, these are probably the folders that I'm going to go, or these are probably the words that I'll be using. While if you are, having lunch and the situation is something else, then the type of prediction or the type of options I want to give the child, access to really fast might be something very different. So these are other ways that AI is being explored to tackle, prediction-based suggestions in different situations.
Yeah.
So, like, now I want to ask you another question. Accidents are uncommon, like, the kids, they put it in the bag, the tab, or the iPad. So sometimes the device gets lost or it can get broken. So after they start the whole process, and one day if this happens, the parents get frustrated. So they don't know what to do. And they fear that all the things, that the changes that we have made, that's been lost. So how can we safeguard the contents and the notification that we have made in the app? Are there any steps to do that?
Yeah, the most important one is, of course, taking a backup. And that's something, that all users should be consciously taking on a periodic basis, especially they keep changing and customizing it for adding more words. But yeah, basically when it comes with factory settings, there's nothing to back up. But once they start adding their own vocabulary, custom vocabulary for the child, because sometimes we hear parents have taken months to add the child's relevant vocabulary. It can be the people in his life, the environment, the places he visits, the restaurants he goes to, and the restaurants' menus are sometimes loaded, his friends' photos, and it all is very painstakingly added at every point during various situations that they come up with. So maybe they've gone for a birthday party. So what do they do during the birthday party? So it can be a whole host of things. And of course, their favorite foods, their favorite activities, their favorite toys, etc. So it takes a long time for it to be added in. And once added, most of it is in place, then it's important to take a backup and store it. And not only take a backup, which then resides on the device, physical device, but also back it up to the cloud. So we did have even in our earlier versions, a feature for taking a backup and storing it in the cloud. So the cloud, we had only access to Dropbox at that point of time. But now in our recent versions, we've just introduced, we do safeguard it in a better way. So what happened with that was also that parents were not aware that they could take a backup, that they should take a backup, that they ought to take a backup. We would send a lot of messages and emails to tell them the importance. We send blogs that tell them the importance, but still it gets missed. And it's not to blame the caregiver at all, because where do they have the time to do it? So, so it's not only to take a backup, and they would think that taking a backup is enough. So we've had where parents say, oh, we've taken a backup, but then where is it? It's gone because the device is either broken or the app gets deleted. That's a very common issue with most kids. A lot of kids, they think it's fun to go and delete the app because they find, something happens and it triggers something. So they go and delete the app intentionally and without knowing the consequences, of course. But so we've had a lot of, heartbreaks for parents when they realize, oh my God, all my years of adding in those words are gone, like just at the click of a delete button. So to safeguard that, and we've been facing this a lot of times, and we can really imagine the angst that the parents go through. So in our very recent version, we've come up with this option of doing an auto backup. So you can set the periodicity for the backup, either 1 week or 15 days. So it is turned to auto backup, and we also link it to the cloud. So once it is set up in the initial part, as soon as you download the app, and then it would be on an ongoing basis. So and at the most, they would lose like either 15 days or 7 days of work, which is easily applicable. Yeah, and we can show you a demo towards the end if you have some time.
But it is a very important topic. We've heard so many stories of parents calling, crying, breaking down, and it's very, very, it's really painful to see them go through that. And which is why it's very important for people to know what are the possibilities. So even in the previous one, I think we did have, create a backup and then share that backup. Even if you don't have a Dropbox account, you could share that folder backup into, probably a drive, or, just send it through mail and things like that. But again, people are not aware that these options are available to them, and half the time educating them when we are even for SLPs to know these things and know that these should be the basic few first things that you educate the parent about becomes very crucial. So SLP should also be advising parents to constantly take those backups or put it up in the cloud somewhere. It becomes very easy for parents to figure those things out and not worry about these things, because this like we said, they're already overwhelmed.
So in terms of backup, ma'am, do you recommend any particular time frame that we often need to back up? How often we need to back up?
So as I said, it's as often as you add more words. So if you think you've added no words, then there's no need to back up. Once it's to the cloud. So once it's in the cloud, then all you have to do is download it from the cloud into your device. If there's any problem with either the device or the app, if you've reinstalled the app, also if you've deleted and reinstalled the app, you can still download it back from the cloud. And in terms of cloud also, earlier we had only Dropbox, and then we had a lot of requests for other options as well. So now we've included Google Drive as well, and iCloud also. So the user can opt for any of these. And like how iCloud makes it so easy for us, as iDevice users, that it's also seamlessly, it just happens in the background without us knowing about it. So the same way we would like even our users to experience a similar ease of handling the backups.
So when you talk about the backup, ma'am, so is it included with the entire package, or is it an additional feature we have to purchase or something like that?
No. It's part of the settings.
Okay, part of the settings. Okay.
Part of the settings, yeah.
So if today I decided that I'm going to have all, my daughter's, all her favorite YouTube clips, and I sit for probably an hour and put in all those songs over there, I mean, I've put in effort. So if you've put in effort, take a backup. That's an indicator that you have to take a backup right now, so that you don't lose those many hours of customization work, especially. So it's not activity that you're backing up, it's the customization that you'll be backing up. So that becomes a good pointer for parents to understand, parents or SLPs to understand that if I've created 3 new folders, which is activity specific or situation specific, then it's a good place for you to just take a backup and then store it so that you don't lose that information.
Ma'am, like you were also saying, before, when parents do get overwhelmed and they've got so many things, you've got a lot of things into place. So we've seen this, like there is a software or there is an app in place. But what is your take on having a structured program, having a sort of to guide them or to give them, okay, this is kind of, can we go through a curriculum? So it kind of helps them also go through a structure. What are your takes on getting that into place so we reach effective communication? Do you suggest that something that people should do? What would you say, ma'am, about that?
So we typically recommend, we don't have any structured curriculum as such.
Okay.
We typically go by first advising them on what are the basic techniques to use, right? Which is modeling and prompting to begin with. So that is the very basis. So we start with, literally modeling is the key mantra to begin with.
Yeah.
So, and it's like so exhaustive, the whole science behind AAC and how to introduce it in such a gradual manner that and there are different schools of thought as well. So what we believe in is to go with structured, more the methodology, which is starting with modeling. So you model it n number of times, and that n can be like maybe 1,000 times, or maybe typically every word, like 50 to 150 times of modeling is what. So when we talk of neurotypical kids, till they reach the age of 1 year, the parent would have modeled, it keeps talking to them from the time they're born, right? It's not that, oh, the child is not talking and therefore I'm not going to talk to them. They just naturally and instinctively keep talking to the child. And that receptive input is very, very important for the child to keep listening to. And it all registers in their brain. And whenever it's time for them to come up with the verbal output, they are able to verbalize it. So in the same way, for children with AAC, they need to hear that the AAC input, which is receptive for them, they need to hear that at least 100 times or hundreds of times as per research for each word to be able for them to be able to relate to it and to be able to replicate it and use it appropriately at the right time when they need it. So it needs hundreds and, like hundreds of repetitions before they are able to speak it out. So that is the first step. So we highly urge parents to encourage parents to, repeatedly talk to them using AAC. So whatever communication through the day, and create more opportunities. And every opportunity that you're actually talking to the child, use AAC. So that is the first step. So at every opportunity, the parent has to use AAC without expectations of the child, for the child to respond in any which way. So that's very critical, because it's not that you do it, I've tried it 5 times and I've tried it the whole of last week and my child is not responding, so I'm giving up on AAC. It's just that without expectations, you continue modeling. It may take 6 months. So we tell parents also, it may take 1 week, it may take 6 months, but don't lose heart. And, one fine day, your child will respond. So you just have to be at it and just keep at it. Sometimes the parents say, oh, my child is, has aggression and has behavior issues. So I want to keep it away. So the point is, use that time to even, you can model it. You don't have to give it to the child maybe at that point, but you can still model with it and say, okay, it looks like you are having a difficult time. Do you think you want to do this? Or, do you want a break? Or are you hungry? Are you sleepy? And use, the parent or the caregiver can use it to model it. So modeling is the first step. The next one, and there is a certain set of words that are recommended, and we typically recommend going through Project Core for core words. So it's not that you use, start with food items, and it's not that you start with toilet training, so those are not the ones. So we give these best practices, we give these guidelines that have to be followed, and typically start with core words. So that is at the core of language development.
Okay.
Core words, because what are core words? Core words, since they are the most frequently used ones, if you teach them one core word, which is, let's say, the word want, right? They can use it in a variety of contexts. So you can say, while eating food, you can say want food. They can say that they can then use it and learn it to generalize the concept. So when they want to watch TV, they can say want and then the TV channel name. Or when they're having an activity, they can say want paint, or they can say want mama, or want a game, or want a ball. So they can use the same word in a variety of contexts. And similarly with the word open. So when you say open, you can say open the book, or open the lid, or open your eyes, or open your mouth. So there are so many ways in which, they learn to use the word and generalize it across contexts. Whereas if you teach the word, like table or chair, you may think that the child knows a lot of vocabulary. And, parents, a lot of times we see that, they start by teaching all the words around them. And then they realize that, okay, the child knows 50 words, but there is absolutely no expression. So there is no language that is developed. So when you want language to develop, it's very important you start with the core words. So then you can form 2-letter words. 2-word phrases, sorry. So you can say want teddy or want this. So then it becomes, they're able to build on that language and make their sentence lengths longer. So what we normally recommend is, use core words, add it to fringe words. So whenever you're modeling, start with 2 words. We always say, go with model one word more than what the child is able to express. So if the child is expressing in single words, then you model 2 words, 1 step higher, so that the child is always looking up to reach the next level. And introduce it in all the contexts through the day. So that then if you're teaching, and we also look at like core word of the week sometimes. So which is a very useful thing, because you're focusing on one particular core word for the entire week. And maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. So then the child is repeatedly exposed to that same word multiple times through the day. And that's so that then the child picks up that this word is actually used for requesting, or it's used for opening the door. So they're able to relate that particular word to a particular action or a particular concept when it is used repeatedly through the day. And it's not that you use it only during, it's not like a tabletop activity, you use it during a session or therapy and close it and keep it. And then, so the parent has to model it through the day and use and create opportunities. A very interesting technique is also communicative temptations, which we actively, share with parents, which is a very interesting part also, and makes it fun for the child and for the parent, where they create situations where the child is forced to communicate. For example, you eat their favorite ice cream in front of them, but pretend that, you're not giving it to them. So you wait for them to come and ask you for it. So you tempt them into a communicative attempt. So similar to that, there are a bunch of situations that you can actually create and set up for tempting the child into communication. So we encourage all of these strategies, and of course prompting. So there's a specific hierarchy in which you prompt the child. Though prompting is very very intuitive and very natural for you to do it, but the thing is that it's you would naturally think and pick up your child's hand and go and point it, but that actually comes last in the hierarchy of prompting, that is as per scientific recommendations. So you got to use that last, and it's to be the most avoided. So you start with a very gradual introduction. You start with the visual prompt, so which is like you just look over to the just do it with your eyes, or you're just just roll your eyes or look towards the device for, just to catch their attention. And then pause. So the pause is again a very, very counterintuitive act that you have to do, that you got to literally count in your head for like 10 seconds and wait and literally give the child the time to respond, because they have to get the receptive input, they have to formulate it in their minds, and then process to give time. So yeah, so prompt, and then you start with the visual prompt, and then you start with the verbal prompt. So where you say, okay, so I think, and then there is an indirect prompt and a direct prompt. So you go from the least intrusive to the most intrusive, and the most intrusive being the physical prompt. So you start with a visual and then a verbal, and in both of them there is an indirect and a direct. So verbal is where you tell them, okay, how do you think we are going there, or where do you want to go? So that's a verbal prompt, and then comes the gestural. So where you just point to that, and then you model it. If they still, so you give it time after every attempt. You wait for them to see whether are they repeating it, are they trying to get what you're trying to ask them, are they responding? And if you don't, then you go to the next higher level of prompt. And then finally, if they don't, and then you model it yourself and show it, and then wait for them and wait to see if you get a response. If you don't get a response, and then you go into physical modeling. And even in physical, there is partial physical and full physical. So partial physical is where you just give a nudge at the elbow, or just tap them at the shoulder or elbow and see if they're able to respond. And if they don't, and then you go into a full physical. So those are the kind of things that we actually give more importance to, rather than a structured curriculum itself. But of course, we do try to give them a lot of examples on how they can use every one of them in a typical situation.
I think the other thing is, when Lalitha was explaining all this, so we're constantly saying that these are the best practices, and we do want to shell out something called as the best practices, and we do have a bunch of directions that we want SLPs or parents to have in mind when they're starting off with this journey. What we don't want, like it's sort of a balance, right? When you say a structured like a lesson plan or a structured way to go about the whole journey, it also does not take into consideration how versatile or how different a particular individual or that environment can be. So we start doing it in the textbook manner, ki theek hai, pehle ye chapter karenge, uske baad then we'll go to this chapter, and sometimes it might not work for a child. We are talking about a bunch of neurodivergence we are engaging them with. We don't know how their mind functions, what their interests are, and we have to capture the uniqueness of that particular individual that we are intervening with. And that's where this comes into picture, that use these directives, use these best practices, but don't go into the way that this is what you have to tackle first. Like, I have to tackle one first, I have to tackle this word first, and let the child lead you, or your situation give you a better judgment of it. We do want that creativity to come in from the parent, because that's how we can all the success stories, Lalitha, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the success stories that we have seen is when the parent or the communication partner is actually able to capture into the individual interest, into that individual person's motivation. And if we have a very structured way of taking this whole AAC journey forward, we will start losing that essence. We'll start losing, what the child brings into that picture, which is why we are again and again saying, best practices or directions, and not giving you a set of, very concrete way, or, take this journey in a very concrete direction. We want that openness, involved, because this is something, speech is something so personal to an individual, communication, autonomy, everything. And we as Awaaz, we are very, very particular that we want to provide our users autonomy, and we keep advocating for it. Even in all our training sessions, Lalitha and Lakshmi, they all advocate for autonomy at all levels, because that's our primary concern. It's not about the child finally saying the words that the parent wants to hear or the teacher wants to hear. It's the child being able to hear what they want to say, and that becomes the center of the intervention plan too. And which is why we again don't want to make it so hard bound and keep it so rigid.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what Keerthana said, yeah, based on the child's interest. So there was a child in one of our sessions who was so absorbed in cooking and recipes. He was like very interested. So we quickly shifted the whole topic of conversation all around cooking, and like it really helped him use better language and start his communication in a better way. And the only thing that is a little structure that we do offer is something called the project core. So that's the set of core words that we suggest to start with, because that has been a researched, there is a team that does this research and has offered a set of 36 core words. So we have, even in our vocabulary, we offer these core words higher up so that it's easier to access. And these are a set of 36 core words that contains, of course, a bunch of all kinds of parts of speech. So we do recommend that they start with some of these. And within that, of course, starting with requesting and maybe some greetings and rejections. So like no or not and don't. So these are some of the ones that you teach upfront, even within the project, even within the 36 core words. Because it starts with with reinforcements, we do say suggest, want, but a lot of people don't prefer to start with want because then they get stuck in requesting. So a lot of SLPs prefer to go with go and stop. So go and stop is again a very common one, where where the child is able to see that they're able to change the environment. So if they go, then you have like a keyed toy that when they say go, you start an activity, and when they stop, you stop an activity, so that they feel that they have control over the environment. So it's a very good motivator to begin with, and a good way to reinforce what they are trying to communicate. So the rejection is also very important, because that's something that we highly underestimate, the need for the child to be able to express their their ability to say no to some things. So these are some.
I think Project Core was designed on the basis that the communicative intent has been taught to the child, that what is the intent of that communication, and that is the first start point for them to start off their journey with the AAC.
So even while teaching question words, so it follows a certain order. So we do recommend that in our, we have like an FAQ. We don't have like a manual, but we have an FAQ. So even within the question words, WH words, there is a certain sequence. So you don't introduce them to the how and the whys in the beginning. You start with the what and where and when, and then so each one requires a certain cognitive ability, because to be able to say the time, you need to have when, concept of time. So you start with what, which is more tangible to explain, and then who and where, and then go on to the others. So there is a certain structure in which you follow. And similarly, even to introduce grammatical forms, so past, present, and future, you don't start that upfront, but you started later in the journey. So once they have a certain certain level, then you start introduce them to various forms. So I was saying that, yeah, to be able to introduce word forms, like whether it's past, present, future, or if it is like when you take adjectives, if it's simple, comparative, superlative, or you want to say singular, plural, any of these which alters the form of the word, you need to achieve a certain amount of communication level before you're able to get to that stage. So you don't start all that upfront, but you start with, so it's a gradual process, and there's a specific time during your journey that you are introduced to that. So in all those, yeah, that's the kind of guidelines that we offer.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say that don't use any guidelines. What I was intending to say is don't keep looking for this thing like a really nicely laid, concrete pathway that I can just get onto. We definitely want to go back to these smaller, definite things which will help us guide the children in a right way, and we will be using these best practices. But yeah, sometimes people also demand for something even more easier, that you just give me this and I'll do that. So that was what I was indicating towards, and not that there should not be any structure at all.
In terms of that also, like, especially in the context of India, and I know that you all have taken that as a very important part of your app, that it has to be culturally, it has to be appropriate and things like that. How has it been in terms of awareness, whether it's with parents or with professionals? How has it been for you all in this journey? Like, have you faced roadblocks? How has it been for you all in this journey?
So I definitely want to say it's not been easy. I mean, we are still struggling, and it's a little disheartening to see how much adaptation we are actually seeing outside, and the speed at which people are adapting to technology outside. But there's still lack here only on the basis of awareness. We do see that in the past few years, I think there has been so much increasing number of parents coming and asking these queries about what an AAC is, should I be looking at it. But still the final decision that I'm going to take it, we still see there is a huge lack or a gap happening. We're still hoping that scenario sort of changes. Like, as a parent, I keep meeting so many of the parents who see Vanya with a AAC around her shoulder, and then they keep they wonder about it, they come and ask me about it, and even when I explain how it has helped, I still see that there is hesitation. So they know the facts, but still something is holding them back. And I think the myths have been embedded really deeply inside, and I think a lot of it also has to change from the professionals educating parents, because that is where I see a lot of lack. So if a parent doubts technology or any sort of intervention method, I can completely understand. But if a professional guides them against it, is where we have completely defeated to the cause.
You can't do anything.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon in India. A lot of professional, even till date, do tell that stop screen, stop AC, stop that, and only then the speech will start emerging. And that's the biggest barrier that we are currently facing with respect to India.
Yeah, true. But the good news is that it is improving, definitely improving. Like, over the years, we can see that happening, because what we started 10 years ago, or in fact 12, 13 years ago, that I was actually the initial part of our journey, like, people were definitely not even considering looking at the device. They said, I mean, don't even come to us. We're not going to look at it until the school starts with it. So, and then slowly over the years, we can see that, schools have started, and now we get inquiries from schools to say, I mean, one of the things that we also started as an initiative was to educate professionals and parents, since we found that there was a huge awareness gap in that front. So we started with a training program for professionals. So we started 2 years back during the COVID times for SLPs, which is a 12-hour course, online and offline. It's a hybrid model. So we started with educating the professionals on what is AAC and what are the myths and facts about it. So after that, we started getting inquiries from school teachers. So which is very heartening to see that, many of them have approached us saying, can we join the course? So then we said, okay, let's create one for the schools specifically, which is tailored to their needs, so that we educate them on how it can be used and adopted in schools. Because it's important that through the day, when the child is at home, we educate the parents to use it. And then when they're in school, we educate the schools to use it. So how can we all, form a team and jointly help in bringing AAC to the child, so that it makes the communication development much quicker. So that is something we have we have been doing, and so it has been improving, and it's really nice to see that a lot of, even now during the awareness month, in fact, a lot of people are reaching out to say, can we do something together? Can we talk about AAC? So it's great to hear that, there are people who are wanting to talk about AAC and spread the awareness even more.
Ma'am, just to kind of, I know we are on time, but just to get into that, could you also just, put out just show us a demonstration of, how you all use ours, just to put that in, just so that our viewers can also see it practically, how it's done.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so this is the Avaz home screen. this is how it looks with pictures. This is a grid size of 40 pictures per screen. So this is the home screen. And you can see on the top left, there is a keyboard. So it can toggle between the picture and the keyboard. So as I said, you have pictures and keyboard.
Pictures.
Okay. And here I can form sentences with pictures. I want.
Want.
And you can see that it zooms out. And I can go to food. If I want to say something, I want water.
Water.
And I just tap it to speak on top.
I want water.
I can tap the speak button or the delete and clear buttons. And I can even share it. So if I tap share, I can share it on mail or so I can share it on WhatsApp. I can do any of that. So it comes with the pictures. Right. And a very important part, as I said, is to be able to customize the app. So, and before that, you can even set it up for the child's needs. So based on settings. So you can go to settings and then set up this picture size. So it's right now set at 40. You can even set it at 24 or 15. But typically we recommend a larger grid size because to enable the child to have access to more number of pictures and less navigation. So let me just put it back at 40 for the sake of the demo. And if the child has difficulty in with vision, so you have if they have difficulty with their fingers and are not able to use fine motor skills effectively, you can swipe action to navigate. You can turn that off. So you have a previous page and a next page.
Go back.
So it becomes
food. Go back.
Yeah, basically these, I mean, there are no more than 40 pictures. So otherwise the previous and the next screens get enabled, those buttons. So then the swipe doesn't work. So even when I try to swipe the screen, it doesn't work. And it enables it only to be moved by the right and the left arrows. So that is for children who have difficulty in scrolling. And you can also have speak buttons. And yeah, there is also color code. There is a theme. So this is for those who have vision issues. So you can have a dark mode where it provides a greater contrast.
Keyboard.
So pictures. It's easier for them to see for children with vision issues. And you also have the zoom feature, which enlarges when you come up, right? So this is and it's also useful as a visual feedback for those who have hearing impairment as well. So moving on to yeah. So moving on to the edit words. So you can edit words. You can say, let's say I go into the food folder and I want to add the child's favorite food. I can create a folder this way, and let's say it's a McDonald's or something that he likes to go to and visit often. So you can see that McDonald's will come up, and it also shows me. So it hasn't found McDonald's. Okay, I can just call it by a restaurant.
Change the find picture.
But even that is not finding. I don't know why. Yeah, thanks. So here you have all these are symbols from the symbol sticks library, which has about 60,000 images that are pre-stored and available with the app. So it just shows you different images, symbol sticks, line figures for restaurant. So I can choose any one of these. And I can also, so I can save it as a folder, then I can go into that folder. I can go double tap to go into the folder and I can add new words. So I can add one word at a time. So let's say I want to add a burger. Okay, so I add a burger. And if I want to make it actually more interesting for the child, so I can then either take a photograph with the camera or no, I'm not doing that. Or I can choose pictures from the gallery, or I can go to internet. So, and where I can get better photographs, so I can save this, right? And I can also add, when I say add new, I can add many words at one time. So I don't have to add one by one. I can, let's say I want to add a milkshake, maybe I'm just putting in some random words, a juice, and I can say a Coke. And I can even give sizes. I can say large, medium, small. So I just keep adding all these words. And you can see that I did want to mention, yeah, that you have different colors for different parts of speech. Right. So this follows a color code called Fitzgerald color code, and where adjectives are in blue and nouns are in brown, and verbs are in green, etc. So it's created it automatically with the respective images and the respective color codes. And I can even move these around. So I just have to hold it a bit and then move it around. So I can rearrange all these. Right. So it's very easy to customize and add your stuff on the fly. So this is a very important part of customization, where it's important to put up what the child likes and what the child is familiar with, and move it in a way that is easy for the child to understand. And even here, you can even, so let's say you want to add a word like idli, which, if the pronunciation is not very right, so I'm just selecting this, and sorry, yeah. So here I can even record my voice here to say, I can tap the red button and record to say mango juice. And I can play it back. No, sorry, mango juice.
Juice.
It's not recording properly, but mango juice.
Mango juice.
Sorry, that was actually orange juice. Let me re-record it. Orange juice.
Orange juice.
Yeah. So yeah, it's easy to record it. I mean, there was some glitch in mine, I think. But yeah, it's a one tap to just record the voice and save it. So especially for words that are not easy to pronounce, or it's in a different language, it's in your own language, you can use that to record. So it's very quick and easy to customize it and save it in the child's folder. So that's a very important part of doing this. And sometimes you may want to just take a low-tech version of this, because your device is not always accessible at every point. So you might want to just create a low-tech version of it. So what you can do is go into menu and go into tools and say create an Avaz book with food. So it just creates like a PDF version of the entire vocabulary at that point. And it's easy for you to share it with parents, because in case they don't have a device with them, or even for the parent, for it to be just a backup, because the device may not always be available 24/7. So it might be charging, it might be under repair, but you don't want to deprive the child of their voice. So you just keep it always accessible and available at all points of time. And or sometimes it is going to the beach, or you're going to a swimming pool, or somewhere where you can't take a device, or you don't want to take the device. It's a lot of parents prefer to take a low-tech version of the board. It can also be kept at different points. So let's say near the toilet, you can keep the washroom, you can keep everything, all the words related to the washroom. Or you're going to a restaurant, you can just take the food board and take it there. So here you can see it's created a low-tech version. I can just scroll through this and see. So each of these folders are, you can see that it's got a page number associated with each folder. So you'll find it's like an index too. So every page, the way it's found in Avaz, you can just scroll through and find the same words in the same layout, replicated as a PDF file. So the document then can be shared. So you can see that fruits is on page 6 at the bottom, the page number is there. And here, if you see, it tells you in which, so that if you want to go to fruits, it's like the way the pod book is organized. So page 6 has fruits. So in the same way, it's been organized in a way that's easy to create and easy to share. So it's just a tap away. You can share it as a file or as an attachment to a mail to the parent or anyone else who wants to take a backup. Yeah, so this is another useful part of this.
Lalitha, I think it'll be useful if you show the backup part
Keyboard.
also.
Yeah, sure. I can show the backup.
Pictures.
Yeah, so it's easy to show the backup where you go into settings and scroll down to go to the backup area, which is very important to show that you can manage auto backups. So you go into that and you can say auto backups is on, right? And it gives you an option of 7 days or 15 days. So you can set it up for 7 or 15 days. And so now it will take it automatically every 15 days. And you can say the top one, which is secure, safely. Sorry, let me come back to that again. This one, securely save your backups to the cloud. If you tap that, it gives you options to do it through Google Drive, Dropbox, or iCloud. So you can choose any of these and it will take you to the login for that. So I don't want to do it. It will just take a few minutes. So if I do Dropbox, it will take me to the Dropbox, etc. So it'll ask you for a login. So once I log in, it's already set up and then I can, so I don't have to worry then fail to link. Okay. Yeah, so basically you link to the cloud, have the internet on, and then it would just manage your business on a regular basis. So you don't have to worry and you just set it up for doing it automatically. So that is one important part. And of course, quickly take you through the keyboard. So the keyboard is another very important part. So where you can start with
Clear.
I can use the top row is what is the prediction. So you can see that there is a way I can scroll it. So that row is the predicted word. So I can start with, let's say,
I. Double A.
So you can see that the words zoom in or enlarge. So if I say WA, and then I'm able to use these words tap for faster communication. I want, so let's say I say pizza,
P-I.
Z.
Z.
So I don't have to type
Pizza.
the entire words there. So it will also tell me pizza crust or pizza delivery. So it will give me a variety of words to use it with. And
Clear.
it also has the ability to help people who have difficulty with spelling. So if you have people who spell it incorrectly with, like, let's say knife is being spelled with N-I-F-E.
I-F.
It also predicts the word K-N-I-F-E. So it aids.
Knife.
It's a phonetic spell check it does. So yeah, sometimes kids spell spaghetti with S-P-U-G.
P.
In fact,
U-G.
In fact, one of the speech therapists from the US wrote into us to ask, if I spell it with spaghetti, S-P-U-G, will it do it right? Because that's a commonly used mistake apparently in the US. So we said, yeah, sure. We tried it out and we showed her that, yeah, that also works. So yeah, basically anything that, the child has difficulty in spelling, it prompts you with. And this was actually inspired because we went to one of the classes and where a child was trying to spell the word ocean.
Delete.
Clear. With O-S-H.
O-S-H.
And that's when we realized, okay, how can technology help this child? And then we figured that, yeah, we can make it do a phonetic spell check. And then that's how it started the feature. Yeah. So yeah, this is anything else, Keerthana, do you think I should add to this?
No, I think
I'm going to do a quick demo of the basic.
We have several demo videos available on our YouTube channel itself if your parents want to explore in the initial days.
Yeah. Yeah, but this was a quick tour of the, and of course we have a lot of settings that you can also look up and see. There's a bunch of settings and yeah, which help you switch on and switch off various features as per the child's needs. And so it can grow with the child basically. It can help them transition from pictures into keyboard. So gradually reducing the dependence on the picture. So in a way that it minimizes the picture size and increases the text size. It eases the transition from pictures to keyboard. Yeah.
I think that was a quick, but it was good. Like for all our viewers to just get an idea, this is what we do and just to show them. So thank you so much for doing that also as a part of that. I think more than the talking, I think when they're able to see it, it definitely sits, you capture that. So thank you so much for doing that also.
So this Autism Awareness Month, even we as a team in Avaz, we have been trying to spread awareness about the fact that sometimes we think we know what the child is trying to communicate. And often, yes, parents do know what the child is trying to communicate. But if you think really deep, there are so many things that the child is actually not able to express, and we get them wrong a lot of times. And we want parents to know this and work towards it, and realize that autonomy in communication and giving them an alternate way of communication also gives us an opportunity to learn so much more about our own child, what their interests are, what they want to do. And though we might know so much about our children already, there's so much that we are also missing on to. Like yesterday you went to this you went to this particular park, what happened over there, what happened in school. So many conversations that we're still not able to tap into because we struggle with this communication. And we want parents to look beyond I know my child and try to think, what are all the things that I don't know about my child, and how can I enable the child to express these things through AAC itself. So this is one of the core things that we want parents and professions to be aware about. And hopefully this message reaches more people.
And even as we wrap up this talk, and we just want to take this time to say thank you to the both of you for taking time off your schedules to sit with us and to discuss this. And our hope is that people who see this are definitely inspired and break those barriers that we've been talking about to actually get a voice for our children. So thank you so much, Lalitha ma'am. Thank you so much, Ms. Keerthana, for taking time to do this with us. It was such an honor and such a privilege for us to do this with you all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you so much for organizing this.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, thanks so much for giving us this opportunity as well to share this with everyone.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. And to all our viewers and our audience who've been watching us, we just want to say that all of our children have voices, and this is our hope and our aim through all of these talks, that we give them that voice and that they are able to communicate what is on their heart, and that we do not limit them. So do stay tuned. We are going to have more talks coming up, but for today, have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.